Hey guys, Paul Pro Scale Models, welcome to another build series. Today we're going to be starting MPC's round 2 repop of the 71 Dodge Demon. So yes, this is a part of a buddy build that was started between my buddies Brandon and Dan. And he kind of invited a few of us along, so I bought the kit and thought, you know what, I'm going to jump in and do a buddy build with the boys. Now I know nothing about this car at all, haven't got a clue. All I know is I like the box art, bought the kit, I picked my colour eventually, and here we are, we're going to start it today. So I had a very quick look through the box. I did attempt to review this, but it didn't go to plan because the camera overheated, because I was trying to film in 4K. So no review, but we are going to start the video by going through the box and have a very quick look at the contents. As always, if you want any access to these videos, you come with patrons, link down below. You get like 3-month early access on the videos. You can get discounts on Pro Scale Paints. There's a Facebook supporter group, a weekly bench update, loads of perks. There's everything else in the description down below, including all the products I use in the videos. And most of the products you'll find over on www.proscalepaints.uk. So yes, let's jump in and get started with the build. Okay, so the 71 Dodge Demon from MPC. It's a round 2 repop of an older kit. Not a bad looking kit out the box. It doesn't look too bad. Body looks pretty clean. No real flash or issues I can see anywhere. The clear parts, they're not bad. There's a few flaws here and there and there. I think it being a round 2 repop, I think you've got to kind of take the rough with the smooth. Chrome isn't bad on the chrome work. We will be stripping it. This isn't a good point. This exhaust and suspension system molded in one, not great. It does have a half decent engine. There are quite a lot of parts in the kit as well. I think for the money, it doesn't look too bad. Now I did have a full review of this, but it didn't quite go to plan. Tried filming it in 4K, camera wasn't happy, switched off, lost the footage. So couldn't be bothered doing it again. I'm not going to lie, going for a review twice, it's never the same. You don't get an honest reaction. So I just thought I'd have a quick look through the box now. But overall, kit doesn't look too bad. One saving grace is the 2 sets of tyres with the sidewall profile writing on. Pre-coloured rear light lens. And quite a comprehensive decal sheet, which is literally some of the worst decals I have ever used. Instructions are very vague, but clear enough to see what we've got. Basic assembly. It is a very basic kit, quite an easy build, so it shouldn't prove too troublesome for anyone. So we're going to build this pretty much out the box, bar the addition of a Pro Scale pre-wired distributor. We sell these on our site in a multitude of colours. They are by far the best quality pre-wired distributors I've seen. And here we go. So we're going to start the build by going through the instructions and looking for all the parts that are going to be painted in the body colour. I think this is a good step to look for. Literally anything that needs 2K or clearing is going to get covered. So we've got the bonnet, we've got the hood scoops, we've got the spoiler and the supports, we've got the main body itself. There's a little valance at the front underneath, which I completely forgot about. Absolutely, totally forgot about it. But going through, just familiarise yourself with the instructions until you're happy. Once you're happy, cut all the parts off using sprue cutters. Mine are Tamiya, it's what I've used for a number of years, and use some sponges from UMP. We're going to clean up all the parts. So fairly straightforward cleanup. Everything seems to fit okay. Generally seems to go together all right as well. We've got our hood scoops here as well. Now there is a decal for the bonnet, and thankfully I chose not to use it because the decals are absolutely atrocious on this kit. They are simply the worst decals I've ever had the misfortune of using. But I was eyeing them up at this point, so I thought we'll drill the holes through for the hood scoops. So I've done a small guide one to begin with, and then a larger one with our Tamiya pin vise. And there we go, just cleaning off the swarf from the top, and then cleaning the hole. There we go, they're then test fitted, because I didn't know if I was going to attach these just yet or not, depending on whether we're going to use the decal. Now, I'm going to go a different route with this. I'm going to do a completely black hood or bonnet, and I'm going to do it in satin 2K, because new to our range of Pro Scale, we've got satin additive. Well, it's a matting additive that you can do either completely matte, satin or semi-gloss, depending on how much you put in the 2K mix. And you don't need to buy a whole new 2K system. It literally works with our existing system, so very useful to use. And I'm going to show it in use later on in this video. With the spoiler cleaned up and get the spoiler supports in place. Now, I had terrible trouble figuring out which way around this spoiler went. The instructions aren't clear. I don't know this car at all. I've never seen this spoiler before in my life, so I took a punt on it and guessed. Drilled the pre-drilled marks underneath to get the main hole locations, and then widen them on top as needed. We're going to paint this separately and apply it at the end later on. So yeah, not too bad to do. The body on this is actually quite nice and clean. A few seam lines here and there to clean up, but overall for a repop kit, it's not too bad. I think if you go into this knowing it's going to be a simple build, it's not going to be overly complex or overly detailed, I think you'll get on just fine. But my advice on this, if you can get away with not using any of the decals, don't use any of the decals. They are simply awful. So seam line will go from front to back all the way along. It mostly be hidden in the panel line, so you won't see it. But there will be areas on the vehicle where it'll need taken care of. So it's usually on the back end of the bumpers, the rear wing, over the roof, down the front wing and down the front bumper. So just have a good look. A lot of people like marking them with marker pens. I don't do that. I just look by eye and look for them. And I would advise doing a guide coat of primer. So don't try and fully prime. Just put a thin layer of your desired colour primer down first, and you'll see the imperfections you've left behind or seam lines later on. It's a good policy to follow. I know a lot of full-size body shops do it to look for imperfections in it, and it's definitely something we're going to do. But like I say, overall, the body's quite clean on the kit. It's not too bad at all. So a little bit of work done, all the seams are gone. I'm just going to clean up all the rest of the body as well. There's a few wisps of plastic here and there on the wheel arches and that. It just needs a light go over, nothing major at all. And then we can rescribe. So I've got my Holly rescriber. It's a 0.2mm. I'm just going to lightly rescribe all the panel lines. No real pressure. We're just letting the tool follow the panel line and just deepen them just a little bit, making them look a bit more pronounced so they look a bit better when we put a wash in them. So if you're new to rescribing, take your time because it's a real quick way of making a messier model. One slip can cause a multitude of horrendous marks on the body that you're going to have to spend time sanding back. So it's a skill that's definitely learned over time, and a good scribing tool is a must. For me, these Holly ones are one of the best I've used, if not the best, and sadly you can't get them anymore, which is a real shame. So one of my prized tools, these. So yes, once we've done that, we've glued our scoops in place because obviously we decided what to do. Now we're going to paint it black. So I'm going to go around the whole body with some 3M ultra fine sanding sponges and key it all ready for primer. We sell these Pro Scale as well, a full range of the 3M pads, and literally key in the surface. We'll put thousands of micro abrasions in there, remove any surface contamination or surface defects, and give us a nice key for our primer to adhere nicely to the plastic. Quick test fit of the bonnet, fits in there absolutely perfect, looking good. So we are almost ready for some primer. So we're going to mount everything up. We've got the main body on one of our Tamiya stands, and I'm going to mount the bonnet on an old bottle with a double-sided bit of 3M tape. So the bottle is full of water, so it's weighted. I'm just going to pop that in place like so, and there we go. We've got a handy little holder for that. And then on the rear spoiler, I've left one of the connection points of the sprue on, so we can grab that with a crocodile clip later on. And we've got some Pro Scale paint, pre-paint degreaser now. And we're going to go over the entire body, and this will remove any surface contaminants from us handling it. You don't tend to get mold release anymore on kits. You're more going to get problem from your own oil and what have you, residue from your fingers, or if you've been eating chips or crisps or kebabs or wherever way you've been modelling. They're the worst contaminants you'll put on your model yourself. So this is an alcohol-based degreaser. Just put a little bit on a kitchen paper, wipe it all over, it'll start to evaporate off, dry it off with a clean side of the paper, and you'll have a perfectly prepped body ready for primer. With key in the surface, or rescribing it, taking care of the seam lines and then degreasing it, we're doing the best job we can to get the best possible paint job we can, which right now is my sole goal on this model. I want the best possible paint job I can get. Not forgetting the smaller parts at the spoiler and the bonnet as well. Just a very gentle wipe over. This will just get every bit of muck and grime off the front, and it'll just ensure we get a nice even primer coat. So all these products we can get from ProScale. Links in the description down below, www.proscalepaints.uk. Go on down there and have a look. There's links to all sorts in the description down there, from an email address, get in touch with me, there's all sorts of stuff. Now, we've got ProScale Paints Grey Microfiller Primer. This is the darker grey. No, it's not. It's a lighter grey. My bad. Or is it? No, it is the darker grey. Yeah, I'm being silly. It is the darker grey one. We've got our body mounted to our stand. We've got our Tamiya anti-static brush. We're going to give the model a brush over. This will get rid of any dust that may have already landed on there in the 10 minutes or so it's been just sat here. The anti-static properties of the brush are supposed to stop more landing on it. Whether it does, I don't know. Now we're going to put a couple of light coats, probably not, won't be a couple, probably 3 or 4 light coats of grey primer all over. First coat I use as a guide coat, and just put a light coat on all over, and then have a good inspection of the model all around. If you see any flaws, stop, clean the airbrush out, take care of the flaws, and then come back and reprime. If there's any missing seam lines or any imperfections in the body, the guide coat primer will help spot those. So it's a policy, well, it's not a policy, a process well worth adhering to. The bonnet, again, light coat primer, just looking for imperfections. But like I say, to be fair, the body's actually quite clean on this car. It's not too bad at all. And of course, paint and oil spoiler. Now, I have forgotten the valance. I don't notice that till later on. So that does get repainted at a separate time. Lucky of having all this footage, I can keep count how many coats of paint I put on and match it later. So this is probably our 4th coat of primer now. 4 very light coats. Now, our primer is a microfiller, so it does go on with a little bit of texture, and it's designed to do that. What we can then do is flat it all back with another sanding sponge when it's dry, and we'll have a super smooth, perfectly prepped surface ready for our paint. So don't be worried if it has a bit of a texture to it, it does. You may find you need to thin it a little bit. Everyone's airbrush, everyone's compressor, everyone's setup is differently. So if you do find the primer a little bit too thick, just thin it with a little bit of our proprietary thinner that we sell, or a bit of Mr. Hobby leveler, and it will work fine as well. With the primer being allowed to dry for about 6 hours, we've got a Tamiya, no, it's not a Tamiya, sorry, it's a 3M ultrafine pad. I'm just going to give this a light go over. Now, what we're not trying to do is trying to take off the top layer of primer. We're literally just lightly going over the whole model and just taking off any very light imperfections. So you may get a high spot of paint where the airbrush has spat, maybe a bit of dust in there, whatever. Because of the microfilling capabilities of our primer, they will help fill any imperfections on the surface. So again, another step worth doing. Once done, give it a toothbrush over all the panel lines, get any muck out, and go over it again with the anti-static brush before painting. So we're going to be painting this in Chrysler 1970 Hemi Orange. This is ProScale Paint, my own company with my partner Hannah. These are pre-thinned lacquers, ready to spray out the airbrush. They are absolutely beautiful paints, nicely pigmented, just with the appropriate size pigments for scale modelling. We substitute any larger pigments for the smaller ones more appropriate for our hobby, so you don't get any horrendous speckled clown for paint jobs I keep seeing everywhere. They're also not over thinned, so you get real good coverage and real depth of colour. And like I say, pre-thinned, ready to go. Now, Chrysler has several shades of Hemi Orange. We actually have 4 on the site, all completely different. One's a pearl, there's 2-stage, there's different years. So this is the 1970. With this being a 71 car, this is the closest one for the year of the car. So this is the 1970 Hemi Orange. It's a solid colour, and it is a really pretty colour once done. Now, we're going to put it down between 7 and 8, a very, very light coat to this. Now, it does sound like a lot of paint. It's not. I didn't even use half a bottle of paint on this car. In fact, it was a lot less than that because we haven't got a bonnet and that to spray. I think it was like a third of the bottle. It goes a long way, our paint. And only £4 a bottle. It's an absolute bargain because you'll get a couple of cars out of each bottle. No problem at all. So 7 or 8 very light coats. We're just focusing on getting the coverage, getting the coats down and building it up slowly, getting all those nooks and crannies. And that way we'll get a much better quality paint job. You don't want to hose this on in a couple of coats. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to get a gloss coat from doing that. Our gloss coat will come from our clear coat later on. What we want to do now, though, is just get a nice, even layer of paint down. You can see just how fine I'm laying the paint down there. We're a little bit heavy on the very front of the screen. just a little bit of a lapse in concentration. But we just want very nice light thin coats, exactly how I'm doing here. And as we do multiple coats, they will mount up and we'll get the coverage as we go. Now we're going to alternate between left and right and up and down coats as we go, and again we'll get better coverage that way. And also be aware of any nooks and crannies in and around those lights at the back, in and around the wheel arches, door handles, underneath on the sills, in and around the engine bay as well, in and around the windows, and just concentrate on getting light coats down, building it up, because before you know it, you'll have full coverage of the car and you'll have an absolutely beautiful paint job. Now, at this stage, I was going to paint the spoiler orange. Well, actually, I wasn't, but I'm daydreaming, and it's about 5 seconds I realise what I'm doing, and I stop. Are you ready? Like, yeah, oh, yeah, that orange is looking good. Yeah, that's looking really good. Then I'm like, hang on, why am I painting this orange? I'm going to paint it black in a minute. So any second now, oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't need to paint that orange. We'll leave that be. So I reckon here we're about 5 coats in. As you can see, the colour's coming through really nice now. It's got real nice vibrancy to it, nice depth of colour. We've probably got another 3 coats of paint to put down. We've used barely any paint. You can see it's not even down to the neck of the bottle on the bottle yet. It does go so far, our paint. It's one thing we decided from the very beginning, we wouldn't over thin it for profit. We'd rather have a quality product than an over thin bottle. You will get around about 50% pigment in our paints. Depends on the colour, but we don't over thin. They're all thin the same. Like I say, we do substitute the larger pigments of metallics for smaller ones, because there's nothing worse than a model than massively overscale pigments. About 8 coats in now, and you can see there we've got full depth of colour. That orange is looking absolutely beautiful, and it's going to look even better once it's clear coated, which we're going to do in part 2. But absolutely lovely colour. Like I say, this is the time where all the preparation pays off, from the primer coat, from prepping the body, scribing, degreasing, scuffing the body up, the primer coat. It all adds up to this beautiful paint job, because each and every stage is as important as the last one. So take your time here, don't be in a rush, take pride in your work, because the paint job is the most prominent part of a car body. It really is the most prominent part. So why rush this stage? Take your time, build the colour up nice and slow, and the depth of colour will shine through. So we've got Pro Scale Paint's Deep Black now, and we're going to paint our bonnet. As you can see, I've left the spoiler half painted because I've realised. Now again, our Deep Black is appropriately named. It is the deepest black colour I've ever sprayed. Once it's clear coated, it looks absolutely phenomenal. It is literally deep black. That's why it's called that, and that's exactly what it is. Now, on parts like this, we've got those vents. We have to come at a multitude of angles to get in the front, in and around the front vents themselves, and the side as well. Because as you can see there, putting the paint down misses the very edge, and I would get under the very edge on the sides as well, just to get continuity of coverage. And again, our spoiler as well, which we mistakenly started painting last time. So again, I'm probably going to take 5 coats or so of the black. The black does cover a lot quicker than a more opaque orange colour. So it'll be about 5 coats of the black laid down. And then we can move on to getting our satin 2K down. So after about 3, 4, 5 coats, you'll start to see the depth of colour coming through. You can see just how little paint I'm actually putting down. It's a very fine mist. And what I do is I angle the part towards the light in the booth so I can see the airbrush actually physically spraying the paint down. So I can see the pattern, I can see where it's going. And as you can see, the depth of colour we've got on that black is absolutely stunning. It really is. It really is the blackest black paint I've ever used. It looks absolutely phenomenal. So we'll let that flash off for an hour or two. Then we're going to come back. And this is the very first time I tested this product. It's only just became available. And it is an addition to our existing 2K system. So it is a matting agent. And it's designed to be applied with our original Pro Scale Paint 2K system, which you're very familiar with if you watch my videos. And this matting agent, so depending on how much you put in, warrants how matte the clear is. So if you just want a semi-gloss finish, put in 30%. If you want a satin, 40%, and a matte coat, 50%. Now those ratios are with the combined clear and activator. So I'll try and explain it as clear as I can. So if you're going to mix 6 ml of clear like normal, say, and you're going to mix 3 ml of your activator as usual, that would give you 9 ml combined. So to get a matte coat of that, you would add another 4.5 mil of the matting agent. If you're going to do a semi-gloss, you do 30%, so it'd be another 3 mil, and so on and so forth. You apply the percentage of matte to the total of clear and activator combined. There are instructions on the website, and I will do some instructions to send out when we sell them. And it does work really well. You then add your thinner, which I just stick with the 5%. That's what I did here, and then mix it all together. So it's just one more step in the 2K process, and obviously you can warrant how much you add or don't add. Now you can experiment and add more or a lot less to get more or less of a matte coat. That's totally up to you. What the figures we provide are just a guideline, but I went with 40%. So that's what we've got here. So it's fairly simple to do. It just requires a little bit of mathematics. So not too bad. So like I say, mix your clear and activator like normal, and then wherever the total of that is, add the percentage of the matting agent to it, and that's it, job done. And then add your thinner at the end. Hope that's clear. If you get any questions, drop me a message or reply down below. It can be confusing with all the numbers, I know, but this is literally the first time I tried this product, and I thought, what better way than to try it on my own model, because I have total faith in our products. I know everything works, and here we go. Obviously, make sure you're using the same new pipette, not the same, but make sure you're using new pipette every time. Don't cross-contaminate bottles. And I would give it a strain as well, because as we know, the activator, it does get a bit of a crusty rim. Nobody likes a crusty rim, and it is worth giving it a strain in case anything falls in. So strain where your crusty rim has been. That's what I would say. Yes. And there we go. So all the pipettes are out of the way, ready to be thrown away, and here we go with our model. So we'll blow it over a bit of air. Like I say, first time using this, and you apply it just like you apply normal 2K. So semi-wet coat going down first. I am going to show this in full because I think it's an important step to show, and I will make a standalone video showing this as well. I will probably use this footage if I'm honest. So there we go, nice standard 2K coat, semi-wet. There we go. So it is going to dry, it's going to look glossy when it first goes down, and then it'll dry in its appropriate shade of how much percentage of matting agent you've added. And obviously we've got the spoiler as well, so we'll pop that in our box out of the way. And grab our spoiler, and exactly the same, give it a blast of air to get the dust off, and then a semi-wet coat as normal. So like I say, it's just one more step to the 2K, and then spray it exactly the same. The only thing you can't do to the semi-glossed or matte or whatever you've done is you can't polish it, because if you polish it, it removes the semi-gloss. So you're literally kind of left with what you've got, so you need to try and be as dust-free as you possibly can. Because you can't sand and polish it really, because you're going to lose the effect. But there we go, onto our second coat. You see, it's self-leveled, absolutely beautiful. So I'm using my Iwata CR Revolution, which is a 0.5 mil, around about 18 psi. Usual safe precautions, the boots on, I've got my full face respirator on, I'm double gloved on that left hand, the window's open, cracked, a bit of ventilation. I'm on my own, and I will leave the room once it's done so it can off gas all by itself without me being in the room. For all these precautions of any 2K product, you should be just fine. We are only using them on an amateur level, we're not spraying every day. You're probably looking at most of you spray once a month. And there we go. So another nice semi-wet coat down. Getting all those angles. There we go. And then we'll pop that to flash off for a little bit. I was having a look thinking, oh, it's like magic. It works just like normal 2K. There we go, get this back out. And again, I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, it still looks glossy. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried at this point thinking, is this gonna work? But it did, it worked really well. So we're just gonna go over now with a finer coat just to give us our final go over. And again, as normal with 2K, we just want a nice glass-like finish. The more perfect finish we get now, well, there's nothing we can do, so we need as good a finish as we can get. Don't be afraid of pushing 2K. It's something, my biggest advice to people with car modelling, don't be afraid to push it. You'll be surprised how far you can go, and you want this to look how you want it to look when you're done, because it's how it's going to dry. And with this, where we can't flat it back, we need it to look as good as we possibly can. So there we go. And that's it. We'll let that dry for 4 hours or so like normal. We can come back and have a look. We're going to leave that there today. We're back in part 2 very soon. Don't forget there's a Patreon link down below if you want early access. And there's links to everything else. I'm like 10 video builds ahead on Patreon. And there we go. With that dry, you can see a nice semi-gloss bonnet. And I was ready to carry on with our build. So I'll catch you all next time. As always, make sure you sub to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and click the bell notification. And a huge thanks to all my current patrons. You're all absolute legends. Have a good day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.